1-800-BEACHES.
I think that the Bush Revolution and the downturn that we faced when he came in office suggested that we needed a tax cut. There's no question in my mind that Ronald Reagan would have said sign it and vote for it. And Senator McCain was one of two that did not. And again, the justification at the time was because it represents a tax cut for the rich. I believe in getting rates down. I think that builds our economy.
All right, it sounds great, but does anybody believe it? Our guests are Jared Bernstein, Economic Policy Institute, Jerry Bowyer, Benchmark Financial, National Review, and CNBC, Steve Moore, Wall Street Journal, and Pat Toomey, Club for Growth President and former Republican Congressman. Now, this is a very interesting story, Steve Moore. The Wall Street Journal, instead of attacking McCain, most conservatives are attacking McCain now. Rush Limbaugh, Ann Coulter, they're all piling on Sean Hannity. The Wall Street Journal is absolutely creaming Mitt Romney, creaming him every day with many columns. I think there were 3 columns. Henninger, Kim Strassel, the editorial itself. He's disorganized. He's off message. He has no convictions. And therefore, as Scott Rasmussen just said, the polling data shows Romney is dead.
Yeah.
Steve?
Well, look, we've taken slams at Romney, no question, but don't forget the day before we really hit McCain hard for his abysmal debate performance where he attacked profits and he attacked making money and he attacked Wall Street.
Which we took him to task on this program.
And I'll say this, that I disagree with Scott Rasmussen. I don't care what his polls show. I think John McCain is going to face some tough sledding next week because of his poor performance. You know, the one thing we've learned about John McCain, and I like John a lot, but he's a horrible front-runner candidate. Every time he gets in first place, he seems to trip up.
Let's not get hung up on McCain. I want to do Romney tonight.
Let me just say this about Romney.
I
think the problem for Mitt Romney is twofold. One is you go to those southern states, people in the South don't like people from Massachusetts. And the other problem is Mitt Romney has simply failed to make the sale to conservatives.
Right.
He doesn't have that, that really hard-hitting agenda, the Steve Forbes agenda.
Before we get to Pat Toomey's defense of Romney, I want to get Jerry Bowyer. And Jared, cool your jets for just a minute. We got a big role for you on the other side.
Jets cooled.
But Jerry Bowyer, I mean, here's the deal. Mitt Romney did not favor the Bush tax cuts of 2001 and 2003. He did not speak up for them. When Mitt Romney ran for the Senate back in 1994 against Kennedy, he disavowed the Ronald Reagan, George Bush years and so forth. And, of course, the last great businessman, analyst who looked at all the numbers was who? Herbert Hoover.
Right.
So that's the issues here. Give me your quick take, because all the conservatives are shooting down McCain, and Romney is not making any progress despite it.
All right, my quick take is that Romney hasn't been around long enough to tick off the sort of enforcers of the conservative movement, sort of the inquisition that's always going through the Holy Writ and saying, are you conservative enough? So they have a grudge with McCain and they don't have a grudge with Romney because they haven't been dealing with Romney.
All right, Pat Toomey, look it. I happen to think Mitt Romney is a fine man. That's not the issue, all right? And he has a distinguished business record. But I'll just read you a quickie from the Dan Henninger column yesterday. He says, Romney's message is a perpetual data dump. Mitt was smarter than the other guys, but he has the smartest kid in the class malady of compulsively trying to show off his brain. And, of course, everybody points to the Massachusetts health care problem. So, Pat, I know you're in his corner. What's your response?
Well, the answer is when a guy's not winning, everyone's going to be taking shots at him and trying to explain why. Now, admittedly, he's having some trouble making the sale that we'd like to see him make, but right now it's coming down to McCain and Romney, and let's face it, Larry McCain is no supply-sider. McCain, I don't think he believes really in the Bush tax cuts. He knows you can't campaign against extending them at this point.
But Mitt says the same thing, but Mitt wasn't for them either when they came out. Let's be honest about this. He was not for them. He never lifted a finger, and it was only later as he's morphed himself into this movement conservative. And when people see that, Pat, they say, what is he really doing?
Listen, it's one thing to not be a big cheerleader for them. It's another thing to go down to the Senate floor and to attack the tax cuts on the same grounds that Ted Kennedy used, accusing them being tilted to the rich, which wasn't true, teaming up with Tom Daschle and supporting the amendments to gut them and then voting against final passage. I mean, McCain took it to a totally different level, and he's come out with some other things that are very disturbing as well, Larry.
Well, he was in the Senate. Of course he spoke about it.
I want to keep this on Romney, though. All right, you heard Pat Toomey again is taking the attitude, yeah, I know Mitt hasn't made the sale, and nobody really knows what Mitt believes in, but McCain's a bad guy. Jerry Bowyer, address that, because that really misses the point, and that's why Romney can't get any votes.
Right. I mean, there's a couple things. One is they're both center-right. Both of them are George Herbert Walker Bush Republicans. I mean, they both have governed from the center-right.
But not Reagan Republicans.
Not Reagan Republicans. This would be George Herbert Walker Bush, too. I'm sorry. I wish there was something better, but that's what we have on the table. The difference between McCain and Romney is McCain hasn't changed his rhetoric. He is what he is, and he says what he is. Romney, every day, is what do you want me to be? And I don't, frankly, I have trouble trusting that.
See, Steve Moore, Richie Karlgaard of Forbes and Jerry Bowyer, and I've made this point, we've all talked about it on the radio show. You had two businessmen presidents in the last century, and they were both lousy. Yeah. One of them ran a peanut farm. His name was Jimmy Carter. And the other one was an international engineer and gold miner, and his name was Herbert Hoover. Right. And the point
Wonder Boy.
Yes, Wonder Boy, Coolidge called him, and Coolidge would never talk to Hoover. So the point is, as Henninger has argued, the problem in Washington isn't numbers, Steve. The problem is vision and leadership.
Yeah, and, you know, when you listen to Mitt Romney, I happen to like Mitt Romney a lot, but he is not ideological. He is not a conservative. He views everything as a kind of problem-solving issue. You ask him, how are you going to solve the energy crisis? I'm going to get the 5 smartest people in the room, and we're going to handle it.
Right.
I think that's a bit of a problem for him. And, you know, in the past, he has put up there. He's been an opponent of the flat tax. I'd like to see him out there promoting Social Security personal accounts. You know, there's a lot of issues that he's left on the table where he can really attack McCain.
Pat Toomey, on the way out, we're going to really put you on the carpet, buddy. If Mitt Romney is president, what's your stock market take? What happens to the stock market under President Romney?
Oh, we get a higher stock market under President Romney for sure. He's totally
what happens
for free
about
trade.
President McCain?
Well, better than we'd have under Hillary Clinton. I'll certainly acknowledge that.
All right. Everybody's going to stay with us. I just had to get that in. Kudlow and Company. Now we're going to carve up last night's debate, Hillary and